Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Your Fave Game, the show where we show that games are for everybody, and we have a random guest on every episode, and I just ask them the very simple question, what's your fave game? And wherever the conversation goes from there, that's where we go. Just a chill show about gushing about our favorite video games. So we are now officially also on Apple Podcasts. We're up on Spotify. So if you want to check out the podcast on those platforms, giving it a good rating or giving it a follow on Spotify is one of the best ways to kind of get the podcast out there in front of some new faces, or I guess ears. I guess podcasts are more about listening if you're watching on Apple or Spotify. If you want to see my face during the podcast, watching the YouTube archive on the Your Fave Games YouTube channel would probably be your best bet. If you really need to see a podcast to experience it, go for that angle. But right now, this show is live and ready to go. Today's episode, we are going to be talking to my lovely friend Mitch, who you might know as HeavyEyed, and we're going to give him a call right now and just jump right into this. Because you had initially given me one game, and then you changed your mind on another, which I find interesting, and I'm going to ask you about.
Yeah.
But just to start off, Mitch, what's your fave game?
So my fave game is World of Warcraft, and I've got a very big take for why that is.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Which we can jump into, or we can talk about why I switched games first, if you'd like.
Yeah, let's just give the like what you had initially picked and then why you switched, and then we'll get deep into World of Warcraft.
Okay. Well, if anyone has ever seen me post anything on Twitter or even watched some of my videos, I usually go back to Star Fox 64 or Lilac Wars, as it was known down here, as my favorite game. But I kind of realized, like, I was thinking about it. I was like, I can talk about it, and there is stuff to talk about, but I can talk forever. And there's more cool and important things, I think, to talk about with World of Warcraft that a lot of people don't really realize how significant, I guess, that game is. And yeah, I guess I can just go into my big take. In terms of modern video games, so like post 2000, I guess, I wholeheartedly believe that World of Warcraft is the most important video game of our generation.
Oh,
like hands down.
No question. I'm interested to hear like why this take is, but I think I can. It's one that I'm not immediately like, that's a bad take. I'm open to hearing more about this take.
Yeah. So everything, okay, not everything, but like a lot of games post, World of Warcraft coming out in 2004 have taken something from it or have been influenced by it in some capacity. Like everyone played it, or everyone has played a game that was influenced by someone who played it. Like it's massive. Like over, I don't know, I think the highest point during Breath of the Lich King was like 15 million concurrent players.
Oh, which, yeah, I remember those years when it just kept being a higher number like every few months.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I have talked to a few people about this who were as deep as I currently am in that game. Like I'm still going. Like I was playing last night.
Okay.
And that, we just don't realize like everything from like talent trees and the way questing works, even in single player games, is kind of influenced by the game loop and design of World of Warcraft. And not that like other games didn't do it beforehand, but WoW was so massive and kind of perfected it. And every MMO for how long didn't try and paint a new style of play. They were always known as the quote unquote WoW killer.
Yeah. And that was the entire like genre pretty much.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, Warhammer Online, Rift, Star Wars The Old Republic, WildStar, I guess, even Final Fantasy 14 have like, I think the only one that's done it well is 14, but yeah, everything else kind of faded away. while WoW is still pulling in numbers. I don't know if it's doing as Blizzard tanked during Warlord Arena, which came out in 2014, I think, and have just hidden the numbers since. They're like,
I remember that was a thing at one point, that they like stopped giving out like the public amounts because it just like kept getting lower, as probably like happens with a game that old over time. But you don't want to be like advertising that every month.
Yeah, your bragging rights from 15, 16 million monthly subs to less than half that, you're gonna probably just
it's one of those things that you just keep to yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, where to start? So I am like as much as I hate it, and as much as I kind of hate the company and a lot of stuff they do, business practices, political practices, I'm a big Blizzard boy.
Yeah.
Like, I can't deny it.
Yeah, no.
I've been playing Blizzard games since StarCraft 1. Even like, I didn't go super hard on StarCraft 1 or Brood Wars, but when StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty came out, I was very, very in that. Like, I tried to go professional.
Oh,
like,
wow.
That's how deep.
Nice. I am the worst StarCraft player in history. I'm notoriously like shit at games overall, but like StarCraft I am especially bad at.
Yeah, I would have given up, but so at this point I was living in Australia when Wings of Liberty came out. And some friends and I used to go to an internet cafe and just, mess around, play very badly.
Okay. Yeah.
Most people do. But the guy who owned the internet cafe was a Korean ex-Brood War professional.
Okay.
And he would watch us and be like, you guys suck. Like, I'm going to teach you how to play. And he wanted his internet cafe to have its own team. So he's like, you're the only people in here that play this game. Everyone else was playing League of Legends. And I want to like train you for free. I'll even give you $20 for a whole week of like internet time here, which I think was like $4 an hour. So we were saving heaps of money.
Isn't this like the premise of that Game Grumps YouTube Red show?
Is it? I never watched it.
I think it's like pretty close to the premise of that. It sounds like it would make a good movie. But yeah, that's how you got into StarCraft.
That's so funny. I never realized that. They stole my life.
They stole your life story.
Yeah. But Australian, especially at the time, I think this is 2011, Australian esports was not a thing. It's only really in the last few years become like a proper thing. So we didn't get anywhere.
Okay.
And then I moved back to New Zealand. So yeah. But yeah, I have seen Blizzard through a lot.
Yeah.
And they're really good. Blizzard are incredible at making a game and then not keeping up with it.
Just kind of throwing it aside.
Yeah, like Overwatch, I got super into Overwatch. As I think a lot of us did.
That was a good summer.
Yeah.
That summer of Overwatch was nice. Yeah. The 3 months of Overwatch being good.
Yeah. And then I remember Anna came out or got announced like 2 weeks after Overwatch sort of came out of beta and release and everything. And everyone I was playing with, I was like, yo, Anna coming out this soon is going to completely ruin this game in a couple of years. I've seen Blizzard. I've been through this Blizzard thing before many times. I've been burnt a lot. And they're all like, oh, you're crazy. This is a good thing. And even playing a lot of League of Legends where they release characters every 2 weeks for a while there, I was like, you get too many characters, your game balance is just going to go up and down.
Yeah.
And then look what happened to Overwatch. It is a mess. They can't keep it balanced. The meta changes every couple weeks, and it's the same.
It like
happens in World of Warcraft.
Like I've stopped keeping up like with Overwatch just because you can't keep up with it. But like the few times that it like pops back up, like that something makes a big enough splash to like make like headlines on like PC Gamer or something, it's like Overwatch is completely changing how you how you get into a match, and like huge changes like that, but then they seem to go like back and forth on it. And
yeah, they're really good at making that first game, and then I don't know what happens. Although like WoW's kind of different because it is the moneymaker. Like it makes significant, like $15 a month from millions of people.
Yeah.
It's just going to be on the board.
Yeah, they just have steady like funding and steady support for that.
And like that was another thing I wanted to bring up was the impact of WoW is games as a service. I don't think we would see games as a service today if it wasn't for World of Warcraft lasting 16, 17 years.
Oh yeah, that's like, is that where your take of like World of Warcraft's the most like influential game, like kind of like not just for games as a service, but like that aspect of games, like World of Warcraft kind of was the first mainstream like instance of that, if that makes sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like EverQuest existed in EverQuest 2, but that was like hardcore gamer. That was like the stereotype. Like I'm a hardcore gamer game.
Yeah.
And then World of Warcraft came out and made it accessible, which is wildly funny to look at now because Vanilla WoW was the most inaccessible piece of garbage to exist.
Yep, I remember last summer with Classic. I had never played it until like last summer, and oh boy.
Yeah, it's bad. I always hated it and was like, no, when Classic comes out, you're all going to hate this. And then lo and behold, everyone hated it except for the people that were into it back then.
Yeah.
And even then, like people who liked Classic back in the day hate it now because it is just so what's the word I'm looking for? Not intuitive. And you're like, I have to walk for hours to hand this one quest in, and it's going to take me like 100 hours to level up. Like, it's not good. And you know, the other thing that I mentioned briefly was talent trees. I'm sure talent trees existed before 2001.
Yeah,
like, I don't doubt that. I can't think of any games off the top of my head, but man, you had to like rip apart that game to like figure it out and optimize your talent tree build. And oh yeah, this is kind of the start of the take. So I was talking to Joseph Anderson for a video that I did where I interviewed him, and he brought up WoW and was like, that game shaped how I view games. And that got me thinking. I was like, wait a minute, WoW is like really influential because back then you had to study it like it was a test. You had to go off-site and not just like read a primo guide to like figure out how to do things. Like there was pages and pages of different forums all over the internet where people thought they had the best way to like beat a boss, build a character, maximize your stats. And that sort of influenced how we talk about games, I think. Like people were throwing around words like mechanics and shit like that, which now, like, yeah, we talk about. But I don't remember people talking about mechanics before I played World of Warcraft back then. You were just like, oh, this boss does this thing, like it has a big move, not it has a mechanic, you know?
I'm having my mind blown right now because I'm like, oh shit, yeah.
And like we kind of had to develop a language to talk about games. And you know, that language was kind of reserved for developers who obviously made games and knew the language. But when you started studying World of Warcraft, you learned that language.
Yeah, because those games, like, they operate at such a level of complexity, and like you said, the talent trees were so specific on how to, like, you could fine tune your character that there was like that room for like the community to like band together and like exchange information and have to like figure out like stuff at the depth that only developers really focused on before. Would you say that'd be fair?
Yeah, definitely. And like no other, I mean, EverQuest probably did it. I don't doubt that.
Oh yeah, but I feel like World of Warcraft is on such like a, like, we could still like appreciate like if EverQuest like did it first, but like World of Warcraft was such a huge like cultural phenomenon, like having like the South Park episode and like the average person at least knows what World of Warcraft is.
Yeah, it's like a household name. Like it was then what Minecraft was in 2011 and what Fortnite is now.
Yeah.
Like it's just the game that people know. And yeah, other MMOs or MMO-like games just don't do what it did, apart from 14, which I haven't really sunk in time into, so I can't talk on it all that much. But it's still got a strong community, so it must be doing something right. But like, I played a bit of Destiny 2 on release, and man, do I hate that game.
I played a little bit of it on release, but I didn't get that far as well.
It had nothing to do at the end, and that's what makes like WoW so important, and why it's still around today, and why games as a service is so desirable today. That like you buy your expansion pack for WoW, and that's going to last you like 3 to 4 years. The only cost you have is monthly subscription, which is an outdated business model now. But you're kind of okay with paying for it, because they do always roll out content. You can just like dip in and out whenever you want.
Yeah.
Like it's committal only to when you want to jump in. Whereas like Destiny 2, every time they release like a new raid, like a new expansion that will have like one raid, a couple of strikes, maybe PvP maps. You're paying like full price for that.
Yeah.
For like the content that you get for free over the years in a game like WoW.
Yeah.
And the only cost is your monthly subscription.
Yeah, like,
and even then you can get it for free in WoW if you have enough gold.
Yeah. They've slowly kind of made that transition in WoW, like, to having like that economy where you can like invest the in-game gold like back into a subscription token and stuff. That's a thing now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The price of in-game tokens with gold fluctuates based on market value. I don't really know how it works because economics is hard.
Yeah. Just a bit.
Yeah. I generally don't do that because I'm a broke boy in that game. I don't do anything that makes me money.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'll just pay for it with real money. I don't care. But yeah, like the end game content is endless because you've got your raid. There's four tiers of difficulty. I've only done it on the second hardest. Like I haven't even touched the hardest yet.
Wait, what are the 4 levels? I always hear people talk about Mythic, but I didn't know there was like more than 2 versions.
So back in the day, there was 2. It was normal and heroic. And then at the very end of Cataclysm, which was the big Deathwing expansion, they introduced something called Raid Finder. So like before Raid Finder, you had to, on your server,
you would have to like manually find people and like have a clan and everything. Yeah.
And then Raid Finder came in. You just like press a button and it finds a group for you, and it's a lot easier because it's random people. And then they've messed around with it so much, and then they introduced something called Flexi for a little bit in Mr. Pandaria.
Yeah.
Which it used to be 10 man or 25 man. That was it. And then Flexi was like, you can have anywhere between that number, and depending on how many people you have, it's going to change the difficulty.
Okay.
Like the numbers and like values of
the auto balancing and stuff.
Yeah. And now it is just Raid Finder, normal, heroic, and then they introduced Mythic, I think in Warlords or Legion. I can't remember. And Mythic is just like the hardest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and then they have this same tier for dungeons, except without the Raid Finder, so it's just normal, heroic, Mythic for dungeoning.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and that's also interesting that like it's changed over the years and that they've had to like kind of alter their approach to that.
Yeah, it's cool because like they kind of have been changing with the times. They realize that they aren't the forefront anymore. Like they're definitely on the back seat.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Hal said in chat, normal and heroic raids are flexi now. Like you can have any sort of number and it will change depending on how many people you have. That was just something they integrated into the normal thing.
Yeah.
But the big thing that I do, and that is like my goddamn addiction to this video game, is so Mythic Dungeons. They have something called Mythic Plus.
Okay.
And It is the coolest thing I've ever seen in a video game, and I want more things to do it. So you beat a Mythic Dungeon. It's just like a Mythic Zero, they call it. And you get a keystone, and that keystone will be Mythic 2. And at level 2, there's only 2. They add affixes. So either regular enemies will be harder, or bosses will be harder.
Oh, okay.
And then you have between half an hour and 45 minutes to beat it. And if you beat it within that time, it gets harder. And they add more affixes. And then it's harder. And it goes on forever.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shit. I feel like there was a game that I played semi-recently that had something similar that I really enjoyed. Oh, I think I was thinking of Hitman, the like escalation contracts.
Ooh, I haven't played the new Hitmans. So
I don't know if it's in Hitman 2, but like the first Hitman of like the new reboot trilogy or whatever they're doing, they have missions where like, so the first time it's like assassinate this person. And so you do it, and then it'll be like assassinate this person, but it has to be with this weapon, and there's more people walking around. And so they like, it's a harder version of like, and they add like a new wrinkle onto what you need to do for the assassination like every time, and each mission has like 5 different layers that it can do that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. I super recommend the new Hitman games. But that's just what it reminded me of. But that like it feels so good for replayability and like mastering that, and it's a good like game loop.
Yep. Every week they change the affixes.
Oh.
So, like, there'll be some weeks where you're like, oh yeah, like now's the time. Like these are easy ones. Let's like push super hard and see how high we can get. Or there's weeks where I'm like, I'm not playing this week. Yeah. Which was last week. I was like, fuck this. Because I play healer, and last week was all healer checks, and I'm not dealing with being bad. But yeah, that game loop is just so addicting. I don't know what it is, but something about just like beating your personal best, especially with 5 or 4 other people. You get your crew together, and you're like, all right, let's smash it. Let's see what we can do.
Oh yeah, if you like as a co-op experience, especially, that would be so good. And like trying to like, we got to go 1 further. We're 2 away. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the other thing is like, so there's the affixes, and you have to kill. So you don't just sort of skip all the content. You have to kill a certain amount of non-boss enemies in a dungeon. Yeah. And there's been times where we get to the end and we're 1% off, and everyone's just screaming in Discord like, fuck, how did we miss it? And
where
there's
is
like
it?
2 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah.
To find like some enemy. Oh, it's so good. And that's like the competitive scene of WoW. Like there's still PvP, but I do not touch PvP, especially living in New Zealand. Like ping is just.
Oh yeah.
But like MDLs, I think they're called. I think that's what it is. I watch them every night. I still don't know what they're called. It's just like people pushing like 27, 28 plus keys.
Oh wow.
And just bashing their head against the wall. And I think at level 15, like the gear stops getting better. So like each couple of levels, you get better gear. And then at level 15, it just stops. And beyond that is just bragging rights.
Yeah, it's just to like just to be able to brag about it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said about bragging rights in games. Not many games let you do that anymore. Yeah,
I really like whenever like communities build up around that sort of thing, because I advocate pretty hard for like if a game like for accessibility options, like if a developer wants to put in stuff to like make a game easier or something, like that doesn't, I don't think that detracts from like the overall experience, because I feel like because I like when game communities do that, because it's like, okay, if Dark Souls like added like an easy mode or something like that, I hate that I went to Dark Souls for the immediate comparison, but
it is the one that people talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Like so like say they do like Dark Souls 4 or like Elden Ring or something winds up having like an easy mode, like if they want to do that, I would be totally cool with it. I just think it's then on the community then to like like you can still have your hardcore challenges like beyond that. And I think like even if a game like is becoming more accessible and like casual in quotation marks over time, like I guess a lot of people would claim like that. I guess that's like just the fact that World of Warcraft's become more accessible over the years, and like with each expansion like has to kind of modernize at least a little bit.
And that's like what Raid Finder did, because a lot of people don't have time to grind for 5-6 hours a day just to get into a raid. You know, maybe longer. So you just pop in a group. Cool, I've seen the story. I can get out now. Because there are people that play it just for the story, which is perfectly fine.
Oh yeah, there's like
whatever fun you get.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's so many communities that I've seen like interacting with World of Warcraft, like people that are just into lore, people that are into PvP, or just like getting every achievement and stuff like that.
Getting every achievement, fuck that.
God. But yeah, I think like I really like approaching video games from both that angle, like making like things as accessible as possible, because obviously like we want as many people like to be able to enjoy this stuff. But then like I'm glad that there still is like a community that's like, okay, what is the maximum we can take this to, and like what is like the bragging rights. Like if they add like an easy mode to like Dark Souls 4 or whatever, like that's not going to get rid of the people that are trying to do like the no-hit trilogy runs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
people are still going to be doing that crazy stuff, and I think they should. I really like that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to play Dark Souls just for whatever story you can glean from it, then like you should be within your right to do that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Not that I think I've ever played Dark Souls for the story, but if you want to do that, go hard.
I've had some good nights like reading wiki entries, but like during the game, it's mostly just, oh, that's ominous.
Yep. Because you're supposed to read the item descriptions, but like I'm not taking the time to half pause a game to read an item description. I'm just going in.
Yeah. But that is really interesting. Like this idea of, because you said like these events that you really like in World of Warcraft, like they have new effects on them every week, so there's always something to come back to, and like the community can kind of like decide like, oh, this is like a great week, or like, oh, this is like fuck this week.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like that's becoming more and more common, like in games overall, is like having people like have to come back, like, or wanting people to check in every day, like you've played this game like so many days in a row, or like weekly challenges and stuff are super becoming the norm. And it's interesting to see like World of Warcraft's also doing that, since World of Warcraft kind of like started the whole like, or like mainstreamed games as a service, because we kind of went from that era of like every game, or like every company wants an MMO to compete with World of Warcraft and get that constant money stream. But we've kind of taken it to the point where like it doesn't have to be an MMO, or like it doesn't have to be a World of Warcraft style game. Like everything's in always online, or like a games as a service thing now, like Rocket League, Magic the Gathering Arena, League of Legends, like all these things.
Oh yeah, like I don't know if these were like substantiated rumors, because I didn't watch the Xbox event. But apparently Halo Infinite is going to be a service.
Yeah, that
they want it to be like a media platform or something.
Yeah, so they said about Halo Infinite, like they didn't show off any of the multiplayer yet, so we don't know how that's actually going to look. But what they were saying was that like we're not planning to do to move a team into pre-production on like a Halo Infinite 2 after this. Like we want this to be the baseline and then keep like building on it for the Halo series. So, and I don't know if that's going to pay off for them with kind of the base they have at the moment of also having Halo Infinite like running on an Xbox One. Like that seems weird if they're trying to future-proof their game. But yeah, I'm interested to see how Halo kind of works in that aspect, or in that model, I guess.
I got a take about this.
Yes.
and it does pertain to World of Warcraft actually.
Oh.
So we've seen WoW since 2004 evolve, get expansions. It's all downloadable now, and I think it always has been, but you could get discs, whatever. And they've even implemented graphic updates over this time, like they remodeled everything. I think they're doing it again.
I've seen a lot of really cool stuff with like they're completely overhauling like player customization to be like way more diverse and things like that. I follow a few people on Twitter that like will be going through like the whatever the latest like leaks or like latest things on the test server are, and like, oh, they added this new model and stuff like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that technology is with this generation coming to consoles now. So we could see like Halo Infinite has its campaign, and then maybe its service is, okay, we can add this graphical update along with this new story. It's like a whole new game, but just under the Infinite banner. So I think that is a really good way that they can approach a games as a service model without it being Fortnite or Apex or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I think that would be cool. Like, I guess that's kind of how I think Destiny 2 does it, like with some stuff, where they kind of like refresh like the main hub areas and stuff and add like new campaign missions on, but it's still under like that Destiny 2 banner.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because they're adding ray tracing to Halo Infinite post-launch.
I saw that
So, like,
too, yeah.
Technology upgrading is like a thing now in consoles, which is crazy.
Yeah, like that was kind of the big deal. Like with last generation, is that like consoles, like the Xbox One and the PS4 are so much closer to each other in like architecture to a PC and to each other than like any console generation before. And I guess this console generation is also doing that. So it's way easier to kind of like make upgrades and build on because everything's kind of like built the same way now.
Yeah. And that's so interesting.
Yeah,
to me.
I am really like interested in like this next gen of gaming from like a tech standpoint. I think there's so many interesting possibilities where we're at right now.
Yeah. So I don't get behind, I guess, the knee-jerk reaction to Halo Infinite as a service. I can get why people are kind of worried about it, but I mean, that's just the way games are going now. Everything has to be, not has to be a service, but you know.
Well, yeah, and like I was a little bit like underwhelmed by the initial like Halo Infinite like unveiling, and I think people are getting too caught up in that. But I don't have anything against like Halo as like a games as service game, especially because like with it being kind of like more of a sandbox like shooter, and like the whole thing with Halo is like how many crazy guns is there and like all these crazy vehicles. Like it feels like a series that will be able to expand well, like, oh, here's some new vehicles, here's some new guns and stuff like that. So I don't think it's like a huge betrayal to like go in this direction.
Yeah, and like if there was a thing that the original, I was going to say Xbox One, but the original Xbox could do back then, it would have been like it 100% would have been a games as a service, because that business model lends itself to shooters so easily.
Yeah.
We'll just throw some maps in, throw some new guns, like you said, new vehicles, done. Easy. Updates forever.
Yeah, and we're like the Battle Royale games that have been coming out lately like kind of follow that, because like Apex Legends and like the Call of Duty one, and obviously Fortnite, like they go through their seasons and they have like big map changes and like mechanic changes that'll happen to keep things fresh and keep people engaged.
And yeah, that's just like how everyone's ripping off World of Warcraft. No.
But like talking with you about it, like I think I agree with your nuclear take. Maybe I would have to think if like what game I would try and say like might be more influential, but like I agree with the idea that like World of Warcraft was incredibly influential for like the current state of the games industry and like the current state of like games business. and like how games are developed.
And especially like games literature, I guess, like the way we talk about them.
Yeah. Well, everything's so like, well, I get like I shouldn't even say like everything's been like RPG-ized, because I guess it's just that like RPGs were the first to really like go all in on this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like everyone talks about like, oh, every game has experience points now, or like every single thing you do is like gamified, or like filling up a bar or whatever. And I think that a lot of that could be connected to World of Warcraft as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, there was thousands of RPGs before WoW.
Yeah,
and
obviously.
definitely ripped a lot of them all off.
But I think like World of Warcraft being such like a mainstream success, and everyone like knowing what it is, like kind of like normalized like those mechanics a lot more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so you could more easily put them in other genres, because like people kind of get it, and like as long as you like explain it to them or simplify it down.
Yeah, and like there's so many add-ons you can get for the game now that just tell you how to play, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also think no game, at least that I've played, has done boss battles as well. Like, there's so many videos I want to make where I'm like, here's this game idea, and here's why no one does it as good as World of Warcraft. And I'm like, WoW videos don't do well because people don't like hearing about it, because it's such like as big as it is, it's such an obtrusive game to anyone who's never played it.
And like I actually kind of want to try to get back in with Shadowlands, because they seem to be like they're trying to make like a jumping on point. Like I think they do that to some degree in each expansion. Like you always hear something that they're like making things more accessible for if you're trying to get back in. But it feels like with the extra character customization and like the level crunch and stuff that's happening, that it feels like an especially good time that they're trying to get some people back on.
Yeah, the level crunch is super interesting. So it's going back down to 60, which was the original cap.
Yeah.
And if it's your first time playing World of Warcraft, you have to play through this new starting zone. Everyone has to do it. Like every new player, has to go through this brand new built starting zone, and then you play through Battle of Azeroth from level 10 to 50 and you go to Shadowlands. But if you're a pre-existing player, you choose any expansion you want to level through from 10 to 50. So like each, like Vanilla, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, Cataclysm, Warlords, Legion, Mystic Dungeons, like is all just 40 level zones now, which they used to be like 10 or 5. Yeah.
That's
so
that sounds like super.
Acceptable.
Yeah, that sounds like way easier to get through than like you want to level up 110 times and go through content from 2007.
Like, yeah, there's so much story content that just does not matter anymore. Like, there's people alive back in these early expansions that have been killed off like 5 years ago.
Well, I never like really got into I don't think I've ever been like subscribed to World of Warcraft for more than 2 months in a row. Like I've tried it out like every now and then. And I think like the two main times were during Cataclysm, I gave it a try in high school. And oh God, what was the one after Warlords of Draenor? Legion. I think during Legion, I played like for a month or so, just trying it out. So I've never gotten like super into it, but I have been able to like kind of see over the years like how it's changed.
Yeah, it's funny because Legion, Cataclysm, and Wrath of the Lich King, I think, were the big ones for people who didn't really play the game, because Wrath of the Lich King was the sequel to Frozen Throne.
Yeah. It's like important to Warcraft lore.
Yeah, it was like the big, we get to see like what happens to Arthas. And then Cataclysm was interesting to a lot of people because they decimated the whole world and changed a lot of the areas. And everyone was like, let's like see how
I remember when that was like a huge announcement that like World of Warcraft's blowing up their world.
Yeah, it was like massive news for
Yeah,
ages.
and
And then,
that was like when they were on the top of their game. Like that was peak subscribers.
hmm and then Legion was kind of like Wrath of the Lich King, where you are with Illidan Stormrage, who was also a massive character in Warcraft 3. Like, so everyone was like, "Oh man, he's good. What? He's been a good guy this whole time." So it was very interesting that those are the ones that you like kind of gravitated to.
Yeah, I skipped the filler.
Just the main arcs.
Yeah, only the main arcs. Pandaria,
I see. Mr. Pandaria is my favorite by like a pretty wide margin.
Yeah, actually,
which I think is a pretty unpopular opinion.
So yeah, as part of like the timing, like I was playing World of Warcraft when Mists of Pandaria was announced, and I remember like a bunch of people, because like Kung Fu Panda memes and stuff like that was a lot of the response, but I never like really got to see like how that expansion actually turned out, because I just stopped playing before then. But like, was Mists of Pandaria like a good expansion, or is this gonna be a hot take again?
I mean, the best raid in World of Warcraft is like a very hotly contested argument. It's like I don't know. It's like the what's your favorite Zelda game?
Yeah,
World of Warcraft, I guess.
Yeah, very deep.
Yeah, and my favorite is Throne of Thunder, which was the 4th raid in Mists of Pandaria. It is just perfectly designed, and it's kind of the reason I'm into what I'm doing now.
Oh wow!
Like, yeah, playing through that raid, because that's when I was doing high-end progression raiding, which is doing content when no one else had really cleared it, so you're still figuring it out. Like, that's
like the different groups trying to like actually understand how these raids work.
Yeah, and that's when I got into studying World of Warcraft, and that's how I got into studying video games, really, to talk about them. So that was like a big catalyst. And I saw someone say Ulduar, and I knew that was going to come up, and Ulduar is fantastic.
Which
Ulduar, which was from Wrath of the Lich King.
Oh, okay.
Third last raid, I think, in Wrath of the Lich King. And that one is interesting. I actually made a video about Ulduar and how it does dynamic difficulty in an MMO.
Oh. I might
So
have
like
to check
if you
that
do
out.
like there's one boss that's like 3 council members, or they call council fights. So it's like 3 bosses at once.
Yeah.
And depending on the order you kill them in, it's depending on the difficulty that comes out of it.
Oh, okay.
And like every single boss in that raid has a mechanic that makes it harder, but you don't click hard mode. You have to like figure out the hard mode, which is super interesting.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's another one of those things where I'm like, more games need to do shit like this.
Would that be one of like 10 people, 25 people, or?
So I didn't play like Ulduar at content, so I can't remember. I think it was both.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it has a 10 and 25 man. But if I remember correctly, and I'm probably not because I didn't play it, it didn't have a normal or heroic setting. You had to. That's why you chose difficulty. I can't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm showing my. I'm not an ancient WoW gamer here right now. I jumped in at Wrath of the Lich King for like full content.
You're just old, not ancient.
Exactly. I played like the free trial that came with Burning Crusade. That got you to level 20, which is still the free trial.
Oh my!
It's annoying. Yeah. And I was like, this game sucks. I hate it. I don't understand what's going on. I didn't have anyone to play with. And it was when I had people to play with that I really understood it.
I think I remember my dad brought home like one of those like trial discs. Like maybe it must have been like Burning Crusade or like really early on. And I think it was just like, oh, I'm going to walk wherever and then wander into like a level 20 area. Cause just, I was I didn't want to be actually clicking on stuff and then just immediately dying and be like, okay, this game's not for me yet.
I'm pretty sure something like that happened to me. Like I was leveling and then walked into like a level 60 zone and just died.
Yeah.
And I was like, like I hate this.
I
What
guess
is
I
the
can't
point?
go here.
Yeah, I just spent like half an hour walking to die instantly.
Yeah, and then you
have to, like,
get stuck,
run
and
back to
yeah,
that
you have
point.
to keep going to your corpse back and forth as the ghost.
Yep. Oh god, trial discs. What an era.
I know. I've been happy that like within the past like year or so, it seems like demos are becoming a thing again.
I was so happy with that Final Fantasy VII remake demo. Even though like I'm whatever
Mm,
on the game, the fact that that demo was like
yeah,
pretty robust was really
yeah,
cool.
I know. It's like the entire like prologue of the game, like that intro tutorial mission type thing.
Yeah.
And on it,
I-
like so many games are structured like that now. Like honestly, they should just do that for most video games.
yeah, because it's too much content on the internet.
Hmm.
I'm gonna just have a little sample taster of what you've got to offer before I commit.
Yeah. Oh, and
And
like we're not there yet. And obviously, like a lot of the world isn't there yet in terms of like internet infrastructure. But that's what I'm looking forward to about like game streaming is just like the lack of like cost associated with like trying out a game.
oh my
Because
god,
you
yeah.
like you won't have to
Go like,
install
wow.
it. Like you can just like try something out from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. Like downloading Final Fantasy VII Remake on New Zealand internet,
Oh,
because that was 90 gigabytes. I think
Yeah.
it took like 12 hours.
Oh, okay.
And we have good internet, but connecting to the servers just made it take forever.
Yeah. It's nuts.
Yeah, as games get more expensive, New Zealand prices are going to get higher and higher because we're dropping 120 New Zealand dollars for a new game.
Jeez. Yeah, Canada's not quite there yet. We have it worse than the US. It's like if the game's $60 US, it's like $80 Canadian, which like kind of
Mhm.
it like works out if you go by the exchange rate, but it still like sucks to have your game like come above $100 when you put in tax.
Yeah, ours does not work with the exchange rate. I think 60 US to New Zealand is maybe 100,
Mm-hmm.
but they're 120. It's disgusting.
Ugh.
So I really have to be picky about what I play, which is kind of the reason I always go back to WoW, because that's $15.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a month of game time right there.
Yeah, no,
Which
it's a good investment. If especially if it does have like that content you can keep coming back to and is like keep you engaged each week. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, and that's 4 weeks of different affixes of Mythic Plus.
exactly.
And there's like a fucking website for Mythic Plus you can go on to see what's coming up for the rest of the season. So I can be like, what's coming up this month? Is it good? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, this week's gonna suck.
Nah, it sucks. I'm
I'll
just
take
like,
my
pop up.
vacation this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
But as much as I praise it, it's a Blizzard game and it has a lot of problems.
Mhm.
And the biggest problem, this is something I really wanted to bring up, so I awkwardly segued into it.
Segue
But
time.
is this is the story.
Uh oh.
So Chris Metzen, who used to be head writer, left a while ago now, and it was like a big deal. And I can't remember the name of the new guy, but he's a self-insert. He self-inserted himself into the game, and it has just made it ridiculously bad and really funny.
No.
He is like the head writer is in love with Sylvanas, who's
Okay. Yeah.
who was the leader of the Horde until this expansion.
I've heard rumbles about Sylvanas being controversial these days.
Yeah, so like Sylvanas until Battle for Azeroth, which is current content, she was my favorite character. Like such a cool design and like motivation, all that. And then this guy introduced Nathaniel Blackcaller, who is his self-insert OC, who is literally a simp for Sylvanas.
No.
And like has pushed her to do like horrific war crimes, and like, you know, the whole point of Shadowlands is she broke open the Lich King's helmet, which
Yeah.
opened the portal between the living and the dying, and it's just
Oops,
like,
you
what the
error
fuck is
40.
going on?
You blue screened heaven.
Yeah, and it's just because his self-insert OC is so in love with her and pushes her to do these like wild things. You're just like, what is going on in this game? Now, and I just think that is it's kind of sad, but it's also just so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't play WoW for the story. Like, I couldn't really care less about it.
Yeah.
But every time I check in to see like what I'm actually doing things for, it's like, oh yeah, it's still a mess. All right, time to go.
Yeah, I do not envy like any writer that has to like keep a story going like that long and like all the different like through that many expansions and like, okay, we've like defeated the Lich King once, we've like Deathwing's gone, and like trying to come up with ways to keep that interesting. But yeah, I've heard a lot of stuff about just like, wait, what is her motivation for doing this? Why on earth would you do that thing?
Yeah, the motivations don't make any sense. It's literally just because he wants Sylvanas to be the biggest badass in, Warcraft. So gotta make that happen through his weirdo scene, I guess. But it's just really interesting because, like you said, it must be the hardest writing job in the world. Because, I mean, I can't confirm this at all. I don't know what their plan, but Wrath of the Lich King, third expansion, had to have been where they saw that game ending, because you killed the Lich King and he was the big bad, or like the big driving force behind Frozen Throne.
Yeah, like that was like multiple Warcraft games plot like coming to a resolution.
Yeah, it's like the whole Warcraft 3 like coming to an end there. And then how do you follow that up? Okay, let's dig up this dragon that's been underground, I guess, and then he comes up and breaks apart the world. Oh, we had pandas as a flavor text in Warcraft 3. I guess we can make an expansion about that.
Yeah, we'll do a fun expansion.
Yeah, and then time travel after that, which that's what killed WoW for like a lot of people, is time travel, as it always does. Time travel is
that's
really a good idea.
Oh god, I'm getting like flashbacks to my days in the Supernatural fandom.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I don't know much about Supernatural.
Oh god. Okay. I'm gonna like it's kind of a similar situation, but okay. So like Supernatural's been on air for like 15 years now, so this was like angsty like 12-year-old me was originally into the show. But so like the first 5 seasons of Supernatural were like the creator of the show was the head writer on the show like for those 5 years. And I'm not ever going to call the show like high art, but it had like a really good arc of going from like Ghost of the Week episodes to like actual like demon lore and like lore regarding to like hell and angels and stuff. Like slowly introduce like actual angels and archangels, and then like the fifth season was like they were stopping the apocalypse and the 4 horsemen and the devil, and it was like, okay, You've escalated all the way to like the top of what you can get from like a show based on like biblical like lore and stuff like that. You've got the apocalypse, like that's where you tap out, and that was where the head writer like tapped out. Pretty much resolved it, but it was that show was like super underwatched for its first few years, which is ironic considering how long it's lasted now. But it just started to get viewers like those last couple seasons, and so they couldn't let it die. So it went for literally double the length of its original story arc like since then, and is just wrapping up its final season 15, like this fall.
Wow.
And like it was like I eventually stopped watching the show regularly, but like would kind of keep up with it, and it was just like so funny, like the different like weird plot diversions they'd have to do to like, oh, like this could be as intimidating as the apocalypse, or oh, we'll do a lower tier threat this year and try something new. Oh, that didn't work. We'll bring back the devil, and like just constantly trying to like figure out like what to do like after they'd already dealt with like the literal apocalypse.
That honestly, that trajectory kind of sounds like WoW as well. Like they killed the Lich King.
I was just gonna say like that was immediately what it reminded me of, is like your plot comes to like where it naturally should end, and like, okay, here's where your characters like walk off into the sunset or whatever they're supposed to do. But like if you have to keep telling the story, you have to like keep doing like and then and stuff, even if like your plot's been resolved.
So like, yeah, Lich King dies, gets replaced. There's a new Lich King. Good end to the story. So then they bring it like a literal cataclysm, and then the expansion. So like the end of Legion, you kill a Titan, which is that lore version of a god, and he gets so mad about it that he stabs his sword, which is bigger than planets, through the planet.
Jeez.
And you're like, where do you go from here? So they scaled it all the way down to just another little war between Horde and Alliance. Like, so now there's just this permanent massive sword in Azeroth, and it's huge. Like it's bigger than the planet, you know.
Yeah.
It's just like, you guys need to scale down. Like, you've gone from a simple war, and even over the course of like that expansion, it escalated out of control to the point, obviously, that we're at heaven and hell coming to life.
Yeah, I saw, like, I don't know if it was an article or just like someone complaining about it on Twitter about how like this latest expansion was like, oh, it's back to the basics, like Horde and Alliance are at each other's throat again, and then like it wound up being about like Cthulhu type shit.
Yeah, the old gods.
Yeah.
Well, the last remaining old god, which is another thing. Like, what are they going to do now? We've killed all the old gods, which were always...
We got rid of them all.
Yeah. I guess we'll go to hell and kill them again.
Oh, I am calling it now. That's how this next expansion's going to end. All the dead people are going to be back in Azeroth.
Yeah, I mean,
or
I don't know if there's anyone...
Or you go first.
I was gonna say, I don't know if there's anyone in the chat that cares about lore, so I'm not gonna like specifically say a spoiler, but I've looked at the raid that's coming up, and there is already like a character that has been killed as one of the bosses.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess I can't like blame them for doing that, because if you're doing like an expansion set in the afterlife, like you bring back dead characters, I guess, but
yeah, it's cool though. Because like I said, I don't care about the story, so just seeing these characters again in like a new setting and probably with different mechanics is exciting to me.
Yeah, from like a nostalgia and like gameplay perspective, that's nice.
Yeah,
but in terms of like creating an engaging narrative,
yeah, I do think a lot of those people dipped a long time ago, because yeah, it's a mess right now, and it's kind of unsalvageable at this point. Yeah, like the only way they could salvage it is to kill it and do Warcraft 4.
Well, yeah, like I guess that's also the thing about having to like constantly like write, like keep having new story and like keep the story going, like expansion after expansion, or for like an ongoing serial like that, is like like Star Wars just had a very controversial wrapping up to their latest like trilogy of stuff. But like now they can take some time off and like can do some like rebooty shit, or like try and ignore what they fucked up like most recently, or at least like can try and take a different angle for the next thing. But I feel like if you're constantly having to make like new content for a game and like keep that story going, like you can't really do the like, or I guess I shouldn't say like you can't do it, but it's harder to like take that like reflective step back and like potentially do like kind of a revival, or like a fresh start type thing.
Yeah, like if you've got 6 to 7 million people paying you $15 a month for this thing, like you're not going to stop that.
Yeah, and like they can't. And they can't do like, oh, like, let's take a break from Azeroth, here's some other place or whatever, because everyone's like attached to their characters, and like the game world is the game world, so like there's only so much they can do. But that's also like, it's very interesting whenever they take that in like a really bad direction, like are adding self-insert characters, or like these characters you've spent like literally years of your life like your main game has like been associated with these characters, and then all of a sudden they're betraying each other or doing out of character things. It's like, what?
Yeah, like I am afraid there's a command you can do in WoW, like /played. It tells you how long you've spent on just that character.
No.
I'm so afraid of doing that. It would be months, like, of, you know, the minutes built into hours, built into days, built into weeks, built into months of playtime. Yeah, I'm terrified of that. Like, even a character I started 4 or 5 months ago would be at least a week at this point. And that's disgusting. But also we had 7 weeks of lockdown, so I kind of just
I feel like no one should be judged too harshly for their games library in 2020 for whatever our playtime statistics are.
Yeah, and like, I mean, New Zealand's back to normal, so I don't have an excuse anymore, but you know, I still am going.
Yeah, Canada's we're in an okay place at the moment, but we're still like taking things slow and just very slowly reopening, which I'm okay with. Like, I work from home at the moment, so it doesn't impact me personally too much, but
exactly, it's just time for streams, chats with friends, and video games, right?
Yeah. Finally starting a podcast. I'm a true millennial on the internet.
I saw your post about that. Like, I'm a millennial comedian, so I need a podcast.
It's a requirement. They get angry at you if you put it off for too long.
It's in the contract.
Yeah.
The binding contract when you become a comedian, right?
Yep. Any content creator in general, really. They get you eventually. even if
I remember I started a second channel to do like a podcast a few years ago with my friend where we like, so he was a barista at the time, and I'm like a coffee fanatic, so we would spend like 20 minutes talking about coffee and like the roast that we were drinking, and then talk about video games we were playing that week. And like, that was kind of fun. We did it for a little while, but then I moved cities and it was just impossible to do. And I kind of rebooted it as like a digital version where we were talking over Discord, and put it on the main channel just to see what would happen. And the first comment I got was, "Not everyone needs a podcast." So I was like, "Fuck."
Oh no!
I guess I'm not doing this anymore.
Oh, that's like that's exactly the fear that like stopped me from ever doing it like before. Like, I never like, people, I'd occasionally get like questions like, I would watch like a really freaking clever podcast or something. And I'd always be like, like, I don't know if I want to do like just me, like talking with friends about like gaming news. Like I didn't want to do a podcast for the sake of being a podcast. Cause it seems like there's a lot of podcasts out there. But I think if you're like, if you're doing it just to like talk with friends and stuff like that, I think it's a good thing. And the thing that finally got me to want to do this is like, we got a lot of free time, so if there's ever a time to try a new project, I guess it's now. But then also, like, I feel like having kind of the hook on it of just like asking someone a specific question is like, okay, this is like a really easy pitch to make to people if they want to talk. And I'm also trying not to like I don't think this is ever going to get to the level where I'm going to be like setting myself up like studio recording and bringing someone in like, today we have Mitch to talk with us about World of Warcraft. Mitch, how did you get involved in the games? Like, I don't think I ever want to do it that professional. Like, I like the Discord, like, hanging out vibe thing. And I think that's becoming like a more prevalent form of content these days.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like, with online creation, I do think the most important thing, even if it's been done 1,000 times before, is your hook. And a good hook goes a long way.
Yeah, that's always the struggle. I watch literally just before we started recording your video on like YouTuber anxiety, just to get a refresh of that. And that balance of like figuring out like what you want to make, but also like making it like promotable or like easy to explain to people is such a struggle.
Which is why I haven't done 10,000 videos about why World of Warcraft does this mechanic better than every other game.
Yeah,
I've dabbled in always tank. So I'm like, it's not just worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really like, and you shouldn't do videos for numbers, but sometimes you kind of just feel bad if something doesn't perform, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, you try and tell yourself that it's 100% like I'm just making this because I want to like make it, but it also like, yeah, you can't like ignore those numbers, unfortunately, and you'll always like think about them a little bit.
Yeah, it's part of this hellscape we call digital creation.
Woo! Content creators, help us!
Oh yeah.
Please.
Support your
local content creators.
local anymore. It's all digital. Just your favorite.
Everyone's local on the internet.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah, that's true. Because of YouTube, I've done some wild shit that I never ever would have thought I'd get to do.
Oh yeah.
Like I've spoken at game developer conventions. I've traveled America. Like it's cool. And actually, at one of the game developer conventions, I got to talk about WoW. So
Nice.
that was fun. But yeah, it's a crazy time.
Yeah, definitely. It's so weird, like reflecting on everything, because like I've been doing this for like 7 years, and it really feels like just 2020 is such like a clarifying lens over like everything.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. It's just a very like odd feeling, and it's a very reflective time, I think, for everybody. Everyone's doing a little bit of soul searching.
Oh yeah, and like I still think I'm new to YouTube, but this is my 5th year.
Yeah,
So I'm not that new anymore.
it just went by so fast. Like I had that that happened to me yesterday on stream. I was like, oh yeah, like it hasn't been that long since like I talked about Pokemon Snap or whatever. It was like I made that video over 4 years ago.
Jeez, yeah. I saw that yesterday. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, just like, oh my god, I've been doing like it's been so long since I did that. Like, what have I made since? Like, I've made so much since then, or like, what haven't I made since then? Like, you get both emotions at once. Like, I've done so much, or I've done so little.
Yeah, it's wild, and like I'm working on a video now that is very long, so I'm gonna have another one of those fun gaps of like, I've done nothing, but I've just been grinding at this one 2-hour long video for months now. But you know, it's the time for it.
Yeah, like
If anyone wants to do content creation, now's the time.
yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Like, obviously, people. I think like the number one thing is people gotta like take care of themselves, but I think like part of that is also like exploring the things that like you want to do. And I think with like the internet's a scary place, but it also like lets you get your work out there to like any kind of audience. And I think there's like audience for like almost any type of content out there. So I'd really encourage people to like, if you have like a creative impulse and like and as long as you're not like forcing yourself like, oh, I gotta like do something for the hustle like during all this, I'd say like it's a really good time for experimentation, because when everything's bullshit, you can just blame it on that bullshit if the video doesn't do well.
That was something I saw a lot of at the start of lockdown, was like, now's the time for your side hustle and self-improvement. And I was like, yeah, now is the time for that.
Yeah.
And then a week later, I was like, I'm just playing WoW every day. Ain't got time to like be sad about the world and try and get my creative flow out there. I'm just gonna play video games, and that's fine.
Yeah, it like this might be getting like real like deep and personal, but like the past like 6 months were like the biggest period of like change like in my entire life. Like right before COVID hit and everything, like I finally got on antidepressants for the first time, and like a month before COVID hit, like I got into a relationship. So it was like a whole lot of life changes just like hit all within like a span of a few months. And then like, just adjusting to all of that during like a global pandemic and kind of like having my entire like worldview kind of rearranged by like just everything going on in the world has been the weirdest experience. And I initially also had that like, okay, if everything's shutting down, like I can't I lost like my community manager job that I had been doing for a grocery store chain was how I was paying the bills right before like all this started. And I lost that job because like grocery stores aren't going to be doing social media promotions during a pandemic. Yeah. Like people are showing up for groceries. That's all they're doing. Like you don't need to be advertising sales. So like the first few months I had like felt a lot of that, like, okay, like this, get back into like full-time content creation. Like this is your chance. But then like was kind of paralyzed by just like so much stuff changing personally. And then also like the international stuff going on was just so much. And so I feel like it's only within like the past couple weeks that my brain's like slowed down enough and that I've had enough time that I can like collect myself and be like, okay, I want to be working on this thing. This is what I'm going to focus on to like keep my mind off the rest of the world and just like going forward with that.
Yeah. And that's good. Like, it sounds like you handled this. I don't know how else to explain it other than just put my hand up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really well. And that's like super cool.
Yeah. I like in the middle of dealing with it, it didn't feel like I was handling well. Like I had a lot of like anxiety, like little breakdowns and stuff like that. But it was like a rough experience, kind of like looking back at everything and deciding like what I want to be doing like in the current moment. But it definitely wasn't like a pleasant experience, but I feel like I'm stronger having gone through it and like on a lot steadier ground with like what I want to be doing and what I want to be working towards.
Yeah, and that's good. I kind of went through the same thing, not like on that scale, I guess, but you know, I had just moved cities and like got a good house with some good friends of mine. But we realized, well, like I had this realization halfway through lockdown. I was like, shit, like we've been in lockdown in this house longer than we weren't in lockdown in this house. And like, if I had been in lockdown with the people that I was like permanently living with, because I did a little bit of couch surfing before we got in here, but like permanently living with, I would have been miserable.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's actually like I see my partner, hey Laura, in the chat. But yeah, we started seeing each other like literally the end of January, and then like everything locked down start of March. So we had like a month together to like do normal like start of relationship things, and then bam, like quarantined together for a little bit, and then like apart because we were quarantined in different areas. And then now we've been quarantined together again for like the past 2 months now. And it's like, I don't even know what my situation would be like if I hadn't like met her like just before all this started, or like if I hadn't like had, like if I hadn't started taking care of my mental health and like gone and started antidepressants like a few months before the pandemic started, like who fucking knows what my emotional state would be like.
Yeah, and sorting out that in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, my self-care literally was just like, all right, I am gonna go for a walk, and then just fucking dumpster myself into World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Like
that was very much me
like,
for the first few months. Not World of Warcraft specifically, but like video games and just like watching streams and stuff.
I got super into watching a lot of streams. Like I had like dabbled in watching Twitch a little bit before then, but as soon as I had all this time to watch streams and stuff, I was like, well, I guess I'll get into it. And now I'm the Twitch degen.
I really like. I was about to say Twitch culture. I don't know if I like Twitch culture, but I like watching. Like it's. I like browsing through Twitch more than I like through like browsing YouTube these days, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Just especially if you're following like the right creators. Like you and I have like tweeted about this. I'm just gonna shout it out right now in the middle of this World of Warcraft episode. The Mario Twitch community is the most like wholesome, incredible shit.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think that was like a big exchange when I had just realizing that both of us watched like Super Mario Maker 2 and like
Kaizo ROM hacks and everything.
Yeah, and like that community is so good, and I had always like really liked being a passive viewer in that community, but then I saw Carl Sagan tweet out his like trans rights or humans rights t-shirts, and I was like, yes, this is the community I want to like be a passive viewer in.
Yeah, no, like they're impressively like on the ball with stuff like that. Like Grand Pooh Bear is like posting like Black Lives Matter stuff like 3 times a day and like hasn't let up. Like it's really impressive.
I love Grand Pooh Bear. He's so good.
So
the real people's
champion.
And like even people who don't tweet about political stuff from the Mario community have been like, yo, we don't do political like content, but you need to be paying attention right now.
Yeah.
And so many games have just been like, no, we're gonna stick to our guns on not being political, and it's just kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But Mario's just like, look at that.
I don't know how you like I this is me from my Canadian perspective, but like I don't know how like as an American content creator with like a decent audience at the moment that you can be like recording stuff under really like restrictive conditions because of like horrible things happening and not try to like bring attention to just like the mismanagement of the COVID response or like the issues happening with like Black Lives Matter and like all these different movements. Like it's such an important time right now, and it feels like extra weird when people like aren't even doing like the bare minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone on rants about that online probably a bit too many times, but I get heated very quickly about that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but like even if I don't agree with someone, I can kind of respect them more if they just talk about it than someone who uses to engage.
Yeah, I definitely I don't know if I should say like respect more, but like I guess I appreciate it if people are at least like open about like hey, this is my take, or like this is why I'm not like giving a take about this, rather than just like not say anything or like vague post about it and then like real weird like Twitter likes and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a wild tangent.
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean,
yeah, well that's like I don't want to like be having this show be like, oh, we got to stay on like World of Warcraft topic. Like I want it to just be like wherever it goes and whatever bouncing from whatever comes to mind.
Everything I've learned about being online is that if anyone gets an extended conversation with me, it's either going to get deeply personal or deeply political. So we hit both.
Woo!
That's just how it be.
No, I mean, I think it's a good thing in times like these. But yeah, I guess on that note, is there any like final like comments on World of Warcraft or like the current games industry that you'd like to like draw attention to?
Oh fuck! There's so like, I just got the like, I don't know what you call it, but every idea at the same time, just like trying to leave my head.
Yeah.
Like, which one do I pick? Okay, for anyone who wants to get into game design, wants to talk about game design, but like doesn't know where to start, I strongly believe that if you get into World of Warcraft, the only problem with it is the game doesn't start until you reach max level, which can take a while. But if you want to get into it, dissecting that game, how mechanics work, how level design is important, how boss encounters are important, how quest design can be good and bad in one game. I think World of Warcraft is a really good starting point for just looking at a game and being like, how does this work? Because it has every resource known to humankind available for how to pick it apart. There's talks, there's theory crafters from the community who will go in and be like, this is the best one, and then there's people who counter that. You can look at the best players in the world and how they've built their characters, and then you can try and copy it and it won't work, and you have to be like, well, why did it not work for me? And there's just everything. People have picked that game apart to the point where it's influenced gaming culture, gaming development, gaming language. It's incredible just how much you can learn from one game.
Yeah, I really hope, especially after this conversation, because now like I'm definitely intrigued in like checking out these dungeons and raids and stuff, since that seems to be like where like the good shit is. Like I'm really hoping that Shadowlands like makes it accessible to be able to like check out these older raids. Like if with the level crunch and everything, that hope like there'll be a lower barrier to entry to see all this stuff. Cause yeah, like it's like film critics will like have recommendations for like, oh, like if you really want to like take like film criticism or like film theory seriously, like these are like essential movies to see, or like these directors are essential. And I think it's like fair to say that there's like very influential and important video games that like have been such a pillar in like all of gaming that that it's important to like know about and at least like check them out.
And you know, you got your standard like Mario Brothers, which is home video game. You know, it started the game industry up from the recession of, what was it, the death of video games basically. Came back. Mario, Ocarina of Time. What else is there from before 2000? Sonic, Crash Bandicoot,
like Doom, or like one of those.
I didn't say Doom, but Doom's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything like that. And for everything after 2000, it's World of Warcraft, Minecraft, and Fortnite. Like, as much as I don't play Fortnite, and I don't.
Oh yeah.
Like I watch my.
Yeah, Fortnite's been majorly influential. Yeah.
And it's so important. I don't know what the fourth pillar of the post-2000 generation will be, but maybe Halo. Yeah, it's a huge time sink, but you can buy. The good thing is you don't have to buy the old expansions anymore. You just have to buy Battle for Azeroth, and you get everything.
That's convenient.
Maybe. But yeah, it isn't as much as a cost investment as it used to be. It's just a time investment, which is very unfortunate. Yeah,
and hopefully that'll be like a much lower time investment once they do the level crunch.
Yeah, my big thing, if someone please is listening to this, someone who works in World of Warcraft, please listen to this. Extend the free trial to level 50.
Do it, Blizzard. Do it.
At level 20, you get access to like 3 dungeons, I think, and they have no mechanics. It's just teaching how to like go through a thing with 4 other people.
Yeah. How to walk with a tank and a healer.
Exactly. You just do not get a sense for the scale at which you'll be playing that game later on.
Yeah, so I think I've like only played like early dungeons in that game because like I've never reached level cap. So
the like vanilla dungeons have not aged well. They take forever because they had to. Now you can smash one out in like half an hour, whereas they used to take like 3 to 4 hours. And those early ones aren't that long now, but like that's just how they used to design them back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my final thought.
Okay.
If game design, get into WoW, and Blizzard extend the free trial cap.
Do it, Blizzard. So Mitch, if people wanted to check out your stuff, where could they find you on the internet?
My YouTube is the source of content, I guess, which is just HeavyEyed, one word. And if you want to see me shitpost on Twitter about politics, mental health, and video games, it's HeavyXeyed, because someone with 2 followers has it without the X.
No.
And they're sitting on that account. But yeah, that's me. I'm trying to get into streaming at some point. I've like dipped my toe in here and there, but I don't know when I'm gonna just at some point, maybe in the future, if I feel like it.
Streaming's all right, chat? But yeah, thank you very much for being a guest on here. We definitely got to talk more video games soon. And I've loved that, like, every episode I've ended like I want to immediately go and play this game. Like, I want to install World of Warcraft and check it out.
I will carry you.
Yes, I actually, like, legitimately, once Shadowlands comes out, let me know what server you're on. We'll see what happens.
Servers don't matter. It's all crossplay.
Oh, is it all
Servers
crossplay now?
Yeah, it's just faction. I'm Alliance because
nice.
That's what you have to play. Oceanic.
Cool.
But yeah, I've played with like people in America like Jimmy and Zach and
awesome.
That group. Like, it just doesn't.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll be involved in some Shadowlands shenanigans then.
Yeah. I look forward to it whenever that game comes out.
Whenever that is.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thank you very much, dude. So thank you very much for listening to this episode of Your Fave Game. Thank you very much again to Mitch for being on tonight. If you want to support the show, we are up on Apple. We are up on Spotify. If you want to give a follow on Spotify, give a 5-star rating on Apple. Apparently, that's the way that you get podcasts noticed these days. So it'd really mean a lot if people could check those out, comment on the YouTube videos and stuff like that as we try to grow this project. We will definitely be having more guests and more episodes soon. I am super duper excited. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening.